Karen Francis. Welcome to Heart of the Matter. Today we are going to meet Timothy Makepeace, a young sculptor whose abstract works have won 3 awards from the DC Commission on the Arts and are catching the attention of curators throughout the country. Glad you can be with us today.
Glad to be here.
Before we get into your work, will you tell us a bit about your life? I noticed that you were born in Pakistan. Did you live there very long?
Not very long. My parents were in the Foreign Service, and they were posted in several countries, including India and Turkey. But
yeah.
We moved back to America in about 1971.
See, and what prompted you to turn to sculpture as your life work?
Well, I enjoy working with my hands, and I enjoy building things, and flexing my creativity. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Are these examples typical of your work?
Yeah, most of my work is abstract, usually abstractions of places or different constructions.
Mm-hmm. What is the source of inspiration for your work?
Most of it is derived from industrial structures or architecture, or industrial architecture. More specifically, things like bridges, blast furnaces, anything that's sort of in the industrial landscapes, like railroads, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, why is it that you've chosen? What causes you to pull from those sources?
Well, I'm drawn to again, because I'm interested in building, so I enjoy looking at things that are constructed. So things like bridges, where their engineering is all exposed, and like blast furnaces, there's just a lot of interesting elements to it, and there are also things about them that I think most people don't really see. That it's part of a landscape that is not really looked at, and so I like to show them in a light that sort of brings attention to them, and try to describe them in a way that it hasn't been really thought of before.
I see. Well, how do you go about extracting them into sculpture?
Well, I like to go through a series of processes. Sometimes I work from photographs, sometimes I work from drawings. Usually it goes through a series where maybe I'll start with a photograph, I'll work into a drawing, maybe I'll do another drawing from that drawing, maybe I'll do a Xerox of the drawing and do ink washes on it, and then maybe work and do models. So it varies though from piece to piece, but I like the idea of going through the steps because it allows me to sort of develop the ideas and also sort of to distill it to sort of what the essence is of what you're after. And also when you do this process, a lot of times accidents happen at each step of the way that you're not planning on, and I like to use the accidents because usually or often the accidents are more interesting than what you were trying to do in the first place.
Yeah.
And there's just more opportunity for that to let the piece sort of do what it wants to do, and you're trying to force it to go one way, and something happens, and you have to sort of stand back and say, well, is this worth considering?
So you're responding to the work as it develops in
and
your
if as you go
hands.
through the different processes, the different medias, then there's more opportunity for that.
Yeah. Is there a name for the school of sculpture that you've, the types of work that you've been doing?
Not really.
No?
No.
Well, is any of your work narrative, figurative, or representative? Or is it always abstract?
They're abstractions of places. And being sculpture, it's always abstract. You cannot really get away from being abstract because, like in painting or other two-dimensional medias, where even if you're trying to most accurately reproduce what you see, it's still always 2 dimensions. And just going through that from life to the canvas or the paper, just that step in itself is a big abstraction. And in sculpture, if you you know, if you're sculpting a bowl of fruit, say, and you sculpt it exactly the way it is, what you end up with is a bowl of fruit. And so you really have to do something to make it more than just what it is. I mean, some artists have done that, but it's very limited. So you're always faced with abstracting it, and the matter is, you know, how are you going to do it to sort of elicit the information that you're describing.
I see. Well, what materials do you typically work with?
Most often it's building materials, because that's what I'm just, you know, is my subject matter. So I work with concrete and steel. This piece here is concrete and brass. So things like that.
Do you ever use wood or?
Sometimes wood. But
Well, what difficulties have you encountered in your work as you create these pieces?
well, it's difficulties all the way. I mean, making a piece of artwork is it's a series of problems, and you solve one problem and that creates another problem, and so on. You know, one problem begets another problem until you know, sometimes suddenly there are no more problems, and at that point you're finished and the piece is completed.
You have that moment when you know it's really finished.
Right, and sometimes it comes at a different time than you're anticipating. You think, well, if I just finish these steps, then it'll be done. And sometimes you get halfway through these steps and all of a sudden you realize, well, it is done, you know. So sometimes it surprises you.
Yeah. What is the most exciting moment for you in the process of creation?
Well, I enjoy the conceptual aspect of it, conceiving the idea, you know, seeing something and being moved to make something about it, and developing that into the final piece. I also I enjoy the work. I enjoy building things, but you know, often a lot of times the work it's just work. You know, it's not necessarily that fun all the time, but
taking a look at those.
This piece is a wall piece. It's concrete and steel, but again, mixing a little bit of the media, can we go back to that one? That one is, it's a photograph in the center. It's actually photo emulsion right on concrete, so there's no paper involved. And it's the concrete and the steel surrounding it is sort of an expansion of the photograph. And the subject is a bridge. It's a bridge up in Cambridge. And again, that's sort of, I'm trying to expose some of the structure and some of the dynamics of this bridge, and sort of in an abstract way.
Very interesting.
This piece is about a blast furnace in Birmingham, Alabama. And again, this piece is trying to describe the sort of not just the physical aspect of this place, but also some of the more subtle things, the sort of intangibles about the feeling of it, the effect it has on its workers and the environment, and it's a very broad thing to try and describe in one piece. But so in trying to do that, what I have to describe the physical part of this blast furnace is this sort of delicate metalwork that's in the middle. It's a little difficult to see. And it's surrounded by this heavy roof and this heavy block of concrete below it, this very massive, hard, sort of oppressive shapes that are trying to sort of apply some kind of compression on the center part, this sort of delicate metalwork. And that relates to this place being a very brutal environment to be in, to work in, and on the environment, people's health, and at the same time being a really beautiful structure in its own way. So that's what this piece, and there are a couple in this series. I think the next one, this also is about the same place. The overall shape of the sculpture has nothing to do with the overall shape of the blast furnace. It's just a detail from within this place. And I've tried to expand this one detail to represent a lot more than...
I like the way you've used light and shadow in the work.
This piece, it's two-sided. I mean, well, it's obviously in the round, but the side that you're seeing here is shadow. That pattern is a shadow created by this sort of rack on the top and a light. The title of this piece is Ore to Ash. It's made out of concrete and steel. It's about 6 feet tall. And the front is this pattern, the same pattern as in the other sculpture, that is made just out of shadow. It's very ephemeral. And then if on the next slide is the rear of the piece. It's the same pattern, same image, but it's in steel embedded in the concrete. And what I'm trying to show here is this is a very, solid steel, iron. It's here forever. It's very strong. But so the title of this piece is Ore to Ash, and the ore referring to this side, and the ash referring to the other side, where it just all you have to do is turn the light off and it's gone. And that's what's in a way happened to this blast furnace and all the blast furnaces in Birmingham, Alabama. That when the Clean Air Act started coming around in about the early 70s, that these places couldn't compete and they just disintegrated into dust. There's nothing left of them. And these places originally were producing, iron in the industrial age, and all had it was a very delicate balance. That when the ore grade was the grade of the ore was reduced and the quality of the air became important, places just turned to dust and just disappeared.
Hence the title, yeah. Very interesting.
This is a drawing. It's about 8 feet long by about 4 feet. It's pastel and charcoal, and this is about a bridge. And I'm trying to play in this drawing between the upper part of the drawing is a carefully rendered sort of three-dimensional image, whereas the bottom half, it's the same thing, and it's just a silhouette, and playing with the fact that even though it's just two-dimensional, it looks more like a sculptural two dimensions.
Yeah, I can see
whereas
that.
the above part is more of a sort of rendered 3 dimensions.
Right.
So I'm playing between the sculptural and the flat aspects.
Yes. Now what about this one?
This piece is about a place also. This is a train station. At a certain time of day, the light was raking through it and creating all kinds of shadows. And often I use shadows because, like the drawings or the photographs or whatever, it's a process. The shadow is describing something that's casting it, but it's in itself an abstraction of what the reality is. So I use shadows often, and this piece is sort of about shadows falling through a train station. So one of the reasons I use the shadows is because the work is sort of being done for me, and I like to show that.
Let's see.
This is concrete steel. It's about 6 feet tall. Again, this is about an industrial structure, and some of the dynamics, the forces that are at work in some of these places.
What is this one called?
This one's called Damocles and the Sloss Furnace. This is about that same blast furnace, and the Damocles refers to that element on the left that is hanging there sort of precariously, again, this precarious situation with this place. Also the same delicate metalwork that is interesting and sculptural, and it's nice imagery that I like to work with.
Right.
And this is another drawing. This is about a factory in Berlin, Germany, which is one of the first sort of industrial architectural examples that sort of created that sort of style, the Mies van der Rohe, and the Bauhaus was sort of founded on. And this is a sort of industrial building that I was trying to describe through this drawing.
Well, these are very intriguing. Can you tell me, where could the viewing public see your work?
I'm not with a gallery, but I have it on display in my studio and in my home, so they can contact me.
Yes, well, where is your studio located?
It's downtown, just above Chinatown, at 5th and M Street. It's an interesting neighborhood with several other artists in the area. There's Tom Nakashima and Sylvia Snowden, John Winslow, and Greg Hannon, to name a few that are in that immediate area.
Yeah, they're all well known.
There's also a lot of architects that live down there, so it's kind of an interesting neighborhood.
Sounds like it. And is there a number that our audience could call to make an appointment to visit your studio?
Sure. It's area code 202-737-3344.
All right. Well, what is your favorite piece of sculpture that you've created?
I don't have a favorite necessarily. You know, each one is different. Sometimes I like one particularly, and then a month later won't like it as much, and I'll like another one better. So it's very subjective.
Or whatever your most recent one is
Yeah,
that it
well,
sometimes? You know?
Often they have to gel
Yeah.
you know, a month or so before I actually like them.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Well, what sculptors do you admire?
I like some of the other artists, some of the other sculptors like Richard Serra, who's also, his work is about, one aspect of his work is about sort of the physical structures of things and the dynamics within them, the sort of precarious balance. And people like Mark de Souvero, his work is sort of industrial based too. But I enjoy a lot of artists' work.
Yeah. What are your goals for the future?
Well, artwork is sort of a long-range career. You know, you're not successful at it usually in 5 or 10 years. So I plan to do this at least until I'm 85, and hopefully that I think by the time I'm 85 I might be successful, but I'm not counting on it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you count on it, it's
eludes you,
very elusive, and you might be easily deterred when that doesn't come.
Well, that's the true artist spirit. You have to just
So
be
it's
doing it
a
because you
long-term
like
project.
it. Yeah, yeah. Well, does the intuitive come into play much in your work?
Not sure what you mean by the intuitive.
Well, you know, from what you said earlier, I think perhaps it would be an affirmative answer. You know, you were saying you were responding to the work as you, the materials as you proceed.
Yeah.
And look for creative accidents and things of that sort. And maybe
Right.
just perhaps something that just
Yeah,
sort of
I mean,
pops
that's a-
into your
that's
mind
a-
as you're looking at the materials.
Yeah, that's true to a large degree.
Yeah, yeah. Well, could you tell us what your view is of the role of the artist in our society today?
The role of the artist, that's a tough one. I mean, they're the people that are viewed by the others as having all the fun. They get to do what they want to do, and they get to sort of sit in their studio and thrash around. But, I mean, there are trade-offs. You know, you don't have the stability of a job, and, you know, are you going to make it or not? How long can you continue this? So I think the role is sort of, they're the people who, you know, get to do what they want to do, and then the rest of the public gets to see what happens.
So you don't think of an artist as playing the role of a shaman or a guide to society or...
I mean, a guide in that this is how one can live one's life this way, and usually it's a warning for the rest of society.
Yeah. Well, are you planning to enter any competitions with some of these pieces?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I do continually, because the only way to really get out there is I mean, to get your work out there is to really enter lots of competitions and grants, fellowships, workshops, all that kind of thing, sort of just keep things churning. You meet new people. So I've entered one recently. It's a competition in Japan. They have a lot of money for art. It's one particular company in just outside Tokyo, and it's an open-air sculpture museum, and they take, I think, 25 people out of from the whole applicant pool, which is from all over the world, and they give you a large budget to make something, and then you give it to them. Basically, they install it there permanently at this museum. So that kind of thing. Work on other grants applications all the time.
Well, I wish you good luck in that. That's certainly
It's a lot of work. You know, it's a full-time job doing that kind of thing, and it's often it's distracting.
Yeah.
Because you know, you have only so many hours in the day, and often you're making the choice: should I go forward with what I'm doing, or go sideways and promote myself? So.
Have you visited other outdoor sculpture parks, such as the one that you're talking about in Japan?
Probably, yeah. There's some in America. One is in upstate New York, just about 2 hours north of New York City, called Storm King.
Yes.
That's a beautiful place, and they've done that very nicely. And there's lots of very large works there. But there's several in this country.
Yeah. Well, so far your works, you have brought these smaller ones into the studio for us, and then we've seen slides of some that sound like they're in the 6-foot range and on. Have
Right.
you done any of larger proportions than that, or do you plan to?
Well, this piece here is the one I'm hopefully going to do in Japan. It's very difficult. You know, you just can't. It's very hard to just make up something that's 8 or 10 feet tall and then hope that something happens with it.
Yes.
Because you have to store it and it's expensive to make and it weighs a lot.
Unless you have your own outdoor sculpture party.
Right, and so one of the reasons I work in these model forms is to, not only they're sort of nice that they're finished pieces in themselves, but you can get a sense of what they would be larger. So I'm hoping to do larger works, and you just have to find the right place or people who want them.
Have you done much work where you've blended your drawing talents and the painting? We saw examples on the slides of some of your paintings, and the sculptures. Have you combined these two forms?
Well, more recently I've tried to combine the photography and the sculpture because, as I said before, it's often I'll start with a photograph of a place and then I'll work from that, and then that sort of brought me to the question, well, why not just put that right in? Why not just use the photograph? Why do you need to, go through into other media? By using the photograph, it's still abstracting in a way because by putting a photo emulsion on concrete. So I do like to mix the media, and I do sort of like the idea of sort of 2-dimensional sculpture and 3-dimensional sculpture or 3-dimensional drawing. So.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, we appreciate you bringing these works in today. They're very exciting, and fascinating.
Well, thanks for giving me the chance to sort of promote myself here.
Well,
shamelessly.
It's good to learn about the sculptors and artists here in our city.
Yeah, there are a lot of them, and
they
just need a little more exposure here.
So, thank you very much. This concludes our interview with Timothy Makepeace. And I'm Karen Francis, and we hope that you will tune in to Heart of the Matter in the future. Thank you.